For more on this, let's discuss with Adeniyi Kunnu joining us here in the studio. Thank you very much, Mr. Kunnu, for your time.
Thank you for having me. Yeah.
So this strike earlier cast further doubts on the elections to come. How do you expect it to affect? What impact do you think it might have on the outcome of the elections?
I think the government of Mali, particularly as led by Boubacar Keïta, understands that if he's to run a second time, and if at all is to have a chance for his political party called Rally for Mali, then he has to tidy up loose ends, or else it could work against him. Let's understand that Mali has a history of strikes.
So is that what this is all about anyway?
Most
really
definitely. I think the
the
people who went on strike understood that this happened to be an auspicious moment for them to get what should have been theirs long ago. And as it is in many parts of Africa, permit me use this now, that oftentimes the people don't get what they want unless they take this strike action as the last resort. So I think strongly that the people were very strategic in their demands, and they've been able to tell the government that we still have certain measure of power, and if we don't accede to the request we've made, which of course is their right, then we'll definitely go on strike and make a mess of this election, and by extension, you may not return.
It's interesting to note that election workers the people we're talking about here, and we're talking about salary raise. Does that not concern you as regards the integrity of the process? If election workers are asking for more pays. Now, Diarra, I'm quoting him now, who happens to be the Secretary General of the National Syndicate of Civil Administrators, says, we have not accepted the government's offer for bonuses and allowances, but we have agreed to suspend the strike while negotiations continue. You know how much role money plays in politics. So how do you run an effective election where the people who are at the center of it don't seem to have enough money?
I think the first thing you must understand is, if you check the history of Mali, you'd understand that in the past years, let me say at the beginning of the millennium, it's a country bedeviled by lots of problems. Let's not also forget that 2012 gave it one of its most challenging moments in history, and that's the problems of the Tuareg rebel, extending it to the connection with the Al-Qaeda group. So these are lots of challenges that took a lot from the pockets of the government of Mali in alliance with the French government. I know that to a great extent, the government of Boubacar Keïta has been able to more or less bring opposing forces together. I know that there was a ceasefire agreement in 2015. All of this took a lot from the Malian government's pocket. But that also has not divorced corruption issues in Mali. And I want to put forward here that if people could have to steal, then why do you not have to give those who work to make the country work? So the excuse about not having enough is what I don't have to accept. But another thing is this: when a government comes forth, has been very honest in dealing with the citizenry, it becomes very obvious. So I think very much so that Malians who are in that country knows how much it bites. Don't forget, Mali is an arid region, a landlocked country, very well bigger than Nigeria, about 1.25 million square kilometers. Now, it has its challenge covering the areas. It doesn't have as much money as Nigeria as a country does. You know, so I think that all of these things put together would have been seen as, come on, do something for us.
And going on that wide scale now, I mean, 6 years of political crisis is no joke.
At all.
What lessons do you expect Keïta and, of course, the Malians in that country to have learned now going into this election?
I think that they should understand the unity of the country is more essential than anything. Because immediately they lose a foothold, the Tuareg rebels are still there. Do not forget that there is a connection with Al-Qaeda now. So it's an expansive network of terrorism and insurgency. And if at all the citizenry in their greater number are not able to agree to do something, then it's going to be destructive. Now, part of the reason I should say here that has made Christian Diarra to agree to the momentary terms with government is the fact that patriotism, after all is said, is very important to move the country forward. This particular election is very significant because we've had some sort of a hiatus for 23 years. And don't forget that we also have the mutinous army that removed Traoré in 2012 before the elections in 2013 that saw this man come to the saddle. So perhaps from the problems they've had over the years, it is better for them to disagree and eventually agree to enjoy their nascent democracy at the moment rather than scuttle it with disagreement.
How does that fly, for instance, given the insecurity challenges?
Good.
Pockets of violence. Just last week, about 6 people were killed.
Even Sunday.
How do you have an election in that kind of atmosphere?
It is to make a strong statement that the forces of division cannot disrupt the sovereignty of a nation.
And you think that the nation's security arm is ready for this?
Well, you cannot give an impression on the international stage that you're not capable of handling.
Bear in mind that France is still in Mali helping them fight.
As a matter of fact, that is a significant factor in their defiance of the divisions and the terrorists to go ahead with their processes.
All right, one begins to wonder how realistic this is when, despite all of this crisis, an election holds and an outcome is announced. One begins to wonder and doubt the integrity of such outcome. Well, we'll leave it here for now because of time.
Thank you very much for having me.
Mr. Adeniyi Kunnu, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you too for having me. Thank you indeed. Thanks.